And we're at Blast Off. Hey, everybody. And this is our second in the series of the Legitimize, Personalize, and Capitalize practice, or putting into effect our 360-degree success solution. Just as a quick reminder, this is what we're working on this week. We've already covered the Legitimize, so if you missed that one, I suggest that you go back and check it out, because you'll see how it all fits into to the rest. Then today we're going to dive deep on Personalize it, and this is the sort it phase of the process. And the Personalize it phase is probably the most overlooked part of this process, and it's probably the most important. And if you're coming up against a pushback or the results that you're achieving in an online business environment is less than what you had hoped for, than what you thought it should be, then chances are that it has something to do, more than likely, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it has to do with the Personalize it phase of the process not being known and not being done effectively. So what the Personalize it phase is the ability to personalize it to your specific needs, desires, wants, visions. And there's 2 major pieces when we're going to start to dive into it today. But I just want to kind of quickly talk about the Legitimize piece that we spoke of in the previous workshop regarding this. So we talked about the Legitimize, we talked about narrowing things down, we talked about gaining clarity by subtracting all the noise, by getting real fine-tuned. And we used the metaphor of a magnifying glass, and using it on a piece of newspaper to get it just right and just so honed in that it starts to catch fire. And it's the same thing here. So with the Legitimize piece, you're sifting out the majority of stuff, right? You've discovered my 5 or so filters, and you've compared them against your own. You then have everything that you're considering. You can now filter through that. But that still leaves you, let's say, best case scenario, it leaves you 5% of the stuff done. Well, that's the sift it phase, right? Now we're going to move into, after Legitimize, we narrow it down to 5%, but that 5% could still be an overwhelming amount of information or ideas, or not kind of knowing how to put it all together. When we get done with the Personalize it step of this process, you're going to discover that that's going to really hone it down, and we're going to show you how to sort it now. So sift it is the Legitimize, sort it is the Personalize it. We're going to sort it according to what you want to do, where it is that you say you want to go, not where anybody else thinks you should go, and so on. So the main idea here is that my guess is, and you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong after we have this session and you can put it to work for yourself, but my guess is that you probably are inside of the Personalize it step. You've got too many competing things, and some of them are canceling others of them out. Some of them are, putting things in a different perspective. Some of them are working against them, and some of them are just a distraction of your energy, right? So what we're going to move into is how to know what to focus on now, based upon what your vision is in the personal, and this is the Personalize it aspects of the process. And we're going to break it down in terms of, first and foremost, what is it that you want to build? What kind of business, if it was wildly successful, if it was everything that you dreamed for, would you want to be running? What would your life look like? What would your lifestyle look like? And we're going to start with that end in mind, and then we're going to work backwards, and then I'm going to show you how to break down into the second part, or the second portion of the personalize it phase, is to figure out which of the 3 fundamental business models you want to work with. And I'm going to give you a 5-step criteria to, just kind of take notes of in each of the. So we're going to have like a 3 columns by 5 rows matrix, so to speak, that you can then make notes on, and it'll become very clear to you as we go through this exactly what portion, where it is right now, and what type of business model given the particular situation and given where it is that you say you want to go. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the vision. And so you notice that we're honing it down, we're honing it down, we're honing it down, and we're talking about multiplied success, amplifying your success by means of subtraction. This is the whole key to all of this, is not to add more information. You don't need more info. You don't need to learn another technique. What you need to do is, and this is in my opinion, what we all need to do is sort out, sift out, and create the right game plan for us personally. And that's something that very few people stop and really think about prior to going anywhere and prior to doing anything. Is like, all right, what is it that I really want to build? And then where is it that I'm going? So that you say, all right, by the time you're done with this, you should have a real good feel for, I'm going here. This is the vision. This is where I'm going. I say I'm going here because I said so. Because you said so. Here's where it is. And until you know that, then you don't know how to continue to combine your efforts, can multiply your efforts, and put it towards that. And until and unless you get to that point where you're very clear and you have a clear vision for what that looks like, then you don't know when something comes along, you wouldn't be able to filter out and know where it fits, if it fits, and at what point in time it fits. All right. So let's go over to the whiteboard here, and or my iPad, and let's get into it. All right, so this is just a screen capture, if you will, of the what I showed you over here. But I just want you to kind of see how this all fits in. So here's the legitimize phase feeding in here, right? And we're honing it down, we're honing it down, we're honing it down. And what I want you to look at is this bullseye for a second, because that's the beginning of the personalize it phase. But really all of this here, all of this is the personalize it phase, right? So we've got a number of things in the personalize it phase that we're going to be sorting through, but that's the big, the takeaway here is that bullseye, right? So if we go over here to the bullseye and we look at this, and we look at like an archer's bullseye, there's 3 rings to it. And let's say the outer ring is where you are right now. That's your present situation. That's where you are right now. Then the inner situation here, or the obstacles, the yellow part is the obstacles that you perceive standing in the way between that and the bullseye right here, which of course is where you say you want to be, do, or have. And remember, where you say is important, right? Because the where you say portion of this is, let's see, the what am I looking for? Oh, I'm looking for this. Yeah. So the what you say is important is important. So again, if we go into that bullseye and right here in the center, and we start with this end in mind, and then we talk about here, where is it that you say you want to do, be, do, or have? Where is it that you want to go? What's important to you? Where would you like to be? What would you like to do? And how does that business look? And first we're going to talk about doing it generally and gradually. And you're going to notice the reason why I'm starting with this bullseye, and the reason why I'm giving you the the whole. I mean, there's basically two parts of the process here. This is one piece of the personalize it phase, the sorting it phase, and then this is the second piece. And you notice how it all feeds into the three breakthroughs: the clarity breakthrough, the confidence breakthrough, and the inspired action breakthrough, right? So that's the and it leads very naturally into leverage, into getting into action, into implementation, which is the capitalize phase, which will be our next and final workshop in the stack for this week. And so what I'm getting at here is that while we're over here in when we're in we're over here in this part of the process. The reason why we're going to start up here is because it's important that we have a general understanding, a general vision, so that we're clear about what it is that we're looking to accomplish and what it looks like, so that we can take measurements along the way, and also so that when we get there, we know what success looks like for us. And so often, we're chasing somebody else's idea of what we think success should look like. We've appropriated it or adopted it, or just by osmosis or conditioning, we've come to accept certain things as being successful. Like my quest should be to have an online business that has millions of customers, and I'm making, as much money every single day and month as I possibly can, with as many customers as I possibly can. Whether or not it means that, that we're optimizing for the right thing, or that we're looking for the right thing. So it's really important to start with yourself first. So that's going to be the first portion of where we kind of dive into here. So let me just move this into place, and then I'll move myself out of the way here. And so when we get here, this is this part of the phase. This is the top part. So remember, where you are right now is your present situation. That's the outer ring. Where you're trying to get to over here is where you say you want to be, where you say you want to go, and then in between are the obstacles. Now, you'll notice that underneath this part here, the personalize it phase, and this is still part one of the personalize it phase, you notice that these steps, or this checklist, appears to be out of order. Like here's step 1 over here, and here's step 3, and here's step 1. Well, geez, because these obviously correspond to step 1 being the bullseye. This is right here, right? Then what's stopping you is right here. It's the middle ring, right? And then where you are right now, that's the outer ring, right? So what I suggest that we do is that we reverse the journey here. That we in fact do this out of order, right? So the first step is to start, even though the temptation is, because what often happens is that we leave this part over here for last, right? We don't give it much thought. When we get to this, we're like, all right, I want to, I want to do, what do you want? What do you want? Well, I want success. I want this. I want that. And we don't give it, we don't start here. We start by actually paring this back, because we've learned to stop dreaming. Does that make sense? Because what ends up happening is that over time, we make decisions based upon what we think we're allowed to have, what we're capable of have, what the situation might allow us to accomplish, right? So in that case, what we end up with is we end up, really limiting this and really not even thinking about any of this stuff, right? We leave this for last, and in fact, so that's what happens when we get distracted, when we have, what's that, the bright shiny object syndrome, right? Where we have everything bouncing in all sorts of different directions, and something new comes along and we hear about it, or somebody turns us on to something and it seems really cool, but we don't know yet whether it's going to serve us or detract from us or whatever, because we haven't got a clear understanding of that part of the journey right there, right? So that's the first step, is to simply list out and to get creative and pretend for a minute that you can have anything that you want, that it can be any way that you want it to be. And, just write it down, go through the journey and just make a list of everything that you want, from a lifestyle, from the people that you'd like to work with, from the type of clients or customers or people that you're looking to serve, like, what that would look like, what would get you excited every single minute. What would get you so excited to be ripping back the covers and going, wow, I can't wait to, get at this day. I can't wait to make some magic happen with this. What would be that vision, right? Then simply, because the natural tendency here is, in fact, the natural tendency is to start with, well, I'm here, and here's all the things that are here, and then really where we often immediately go to is we go right to part 3 of what are the obstacles, or in other words, I can't have what I really want over here because of all the shit that's going on over here, right? I can't have, this is what's stopping me. So I can't actually have this. So where I am right now is basically what I'm stuck with. And so you end up, or you have been ending up going back and forth here. However, if you will reverse the process and start with what do you want, then don't move immediately into the obstacles. Don't move immediately into all the stuff that's standing in your way, that you say, well, if it wasn't for this situation, if it wasn't for this, that, and the other, then I would, I could then have that happen. Because as you will recall, those are Fred stories. But we're going to get to that, and actually you're going to see why, going through this journey, and now all of this stuff is going to start to coalesce for you and make some sense in this regard, because it's all going to start pulling together. Everything that we've been covering the last few weeks are going to start to gel. Now, the point is that if you move into what's stopping you prematurely, this is going to give you this side over here, the what do you want. If you do this properly, if you allow yourself to dream, if you simply give yourself permission to do what you want to do and dream a little bit and have the fun within it, this is going to excite you, and this is going to build confidence. And do it without worrying about what the problems are. Do it without worrying about, just be like that 5-year-old kid that nothing is impossible, that you can be, do, or have anything that you want because you said so at any point in time, that it's completely up to you and it's under your control. That's the power, right? Is that you then can, in fact, start to make progress, and you'll start to feel that confidence building up if you will suspend for a minute the obstacles. So we aren't going to go on to this till the third step of the process, which is really the yellow part of the bullseye right here that we believe is keeping us in between here. And then we're going to go back to getting a clear understanding of where you are right here. Now, this also is really important, because where you think you are over here, right? And let me just erase this for a second. Where you think you are is probably not where you actually are. In other words, what you think is going on, what you think your current situation is usually jaded and shaded by the different ideas and circumstances and the situation that you seem to be facing. That's really, it's going to be colored by this right here, by the obstacles, by the things that you're perceiving standing in your way. Does that make sense? So, but we haven't gotten to this yet, and we haven't, we don't even have to address that. So let's pretend, just objectively, putting on our objective observer glasses, and just look at the present situation. What do you have to work with, and so on. And I'm going to clarify this even further for you, give you some tools to do that in the next the next part of the Personalize It process here. But I just want you to kind of get an idea, because these are the raw steps up here. But where you are is probably in some regards a whole lot better off than you're actually, like you have more opportunities, more resources, more people that you can reach out to, more knowledge, more things that you can leverage than you probably even realize right now, when you're not being shaded and jaded by what's stopping you, by the conditions that are standing in the way, or believe that you believe to be standing in your way, right? So what you will find is that there's another side to this also, is that where you think you are, and it may be further away, truthfully and objectively, than what you're thinking of right now. Because if you weren't that far away, you could get there and you'd already be there, right? If it was just a little bit of a gap between where your current situation and where it is that you want to get to, you could bridge that gap pretty easily, and you could actually envision yourself bridging that gap without too much effort, without too much hassles, right? So that's the point, is just get real clear and real objective on where you are right now. And if this is difficult, it really doesn't have to be. Just pretend that you're Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, and that you're just matter of fact, like you're a scientist, and you're just taking an inventory of what's going on. Try as much as you possibly can to remove the energy, to remove the guilt, the shame, all the other things that you tried in the past that didn't work, and why that happened, because that's all part of the what's stopping you phase of the journey, right? And we're not there yet. But as you're going to see, the reason why I've got this dotted line and it's like a stepping stone, like all of this stuff, is that actually what you're going to find out is that where you are right now, combined with what you believe and perceive is stopping you, is going to become your stepping stones to actually what you want over here. And if you'll just do this, just start to make these 3 lists. If all you did is just work on this a little bit, and for starting with the first list, and promise that you're not going to stop writing for, like make a commitment to yourself for 5 minutes straight, that all you're going to do is keep that pen moving on what do you want, 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 and the sky's the limit. This is not a time to evaluate whether it's feasible or possible, or whether whether you've got the right circumstances, whatever that is. What do you want, what do you want, what do you want? Then come over here to where am I now? Where am I now? Where am I now? I'm here, and then, do that for another 5 minutes or so, and make a long list of each one of these things. Then go back and what's stopping you, now work your way through this and into the what's stopping you, and you'll start to see that those obstacles, aren't probably as big as what you thought they are, but even if they are, that's cool, because here's the thing. For all 3 of these steps, your Fred stories are going to be controlling the whole issue. So if in any point in time you're having a hard time with any of these things, and you want to stop, or you want to quit, or you want to move on to something different, or right? What is going on here is that there's an opportunity for you to R&D a Fred story, for you to recognize that in fact it is a Fred story that's creating that's triggering that emotion over here, over here, over here, and will allow you to become more and more objective, so that you can answer all of these questions objectively without emotional attachment, without having it mean or say anything about you, without any feelings of guilt or shame or anger or frustration about the previous things that you've attempted, and so on, right? So that's the power of doing it in this fashion. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on in a second to the breaking this down into the next part of the personalizing phase, so that we can sort it out into your specific needs. But it's really important. It's really, really important that within the personalize it phase of the process, that you get real clear about what it is that you want and what it is that is current in your particular situation, so that you can start to fine-tune those filters, those lenses that you're going to be looking at everything through. Because pretty soon in the capitalize it phase, and then in the following execution phase, which I'm going to give you a 15-week process to help you bridge the gap during, putting the capitalize it phase into effect for yourself, and so that you can actually start to live this stuff rather than just learn about it. And by the way, I'm not going to be teaching you anything that you don't already know. In fact, all I'm doing is I'm giving you the framework to be able to put the other programs, the other processes, the other education learning that you've been doing for the last umpteen million years, or however long it's been for you, into action for yourself, so that you're not left wondering, why did that happen? Where does it go? And so on. Is that we're going to give you the tools to hone it down based upon where you are right now, your current situation, your circumstances, where it is that you want to get to in this moment, based upon your needs, your desires, where your vision for what is right now in this moment. And that changes too for you. Like what you're looking to accomplish might be vastly different right now than it was a year ago, and that it might be at 5 years into the future. Don't worry about building something for 5 years into the future. Worry about what's going to be right now, and then know that you can alternate and you can move beyond that when your situation changes, when your vision, your desires change downstream. But this is the filter that is going to allow you to then go through all of your ideas and processes and things that you've been, people that you've been following, things that you've experimented with and tried a little bit of, and that have worked to a smaller or greater degree depending on what it was. It's going to give you the ability to put that all into perspective and allow you to create the next piece of momentum forward, the next idea that's going to create a logical progression upwards, so that you can go into momentum rather than constantly doing this, or the roller coaster, or the squirrel on crack, the cat on crack that's like in the road, that's going to get run over by the tractor trailer truck. So the idea is, first and foremost, during this part of the process, when we're done with the next part 2 of this, of the personalize it phase, which we're going to get into in just a minute, the idea is for you to be able to know very specifically, what type of the 3 fundamental business models that are going to be ideal for you right now. And I'm going to walk you through a 5-step criteria plan for each of the 3 business models and what the pros and cons are. And then you'll be able to start to sort more of your ideas and models and things that, business ideas, things that you're thinking about doing, or into those groups. And then once you know where they fit within the 3 groupings, and then what the criteria are for you personally, filtering it against your 3-step that we just talked about, process, then you'll be able to very clearly know, all right, what are my options within which of the 3 business models. You know what? Let's just get into it, and it'll be easier to see it as I explain it to you. So let's do that. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it up to the next step of the process, which is, if you recall back over here, that was the bottom piece or the second half of the personalize it piece of the equation. All right, so where we are is that we've got, remember I said in the beginning that we're going to have like a 3x5 matrix. So you just take out a yellow legal pad or whatever and have it lengthwise and draw 3 columns down it and then 5 rows similar to this so that you can fill in the blanks on each of these and kind of do some figuring out as we go here, right? So the idea is that when you have, there's 3 fundamental types of business models. And frankly, they're not just online business models, but they're really amplified in the online world as much. So I'm going to really build this into the online world so that it really starts to gel and make some sense, because that's what the rest of this is going to be brought into effect with. So if we are starting with, let's just give you a quick overview, a cash flow type plan. That's what this is here, right? It's a cash flow plan. And a cash flow plan is something that's transactional in nature. Does that make sense? So, meaning that there's, if you need money today, right now, to pay a bill, to buy groceries or whatever, you need a cash flow generating model. You need a transactional model. You need something that if you take an activity right now and you can get paid in the next few days or weeks or whatever. So there's that type of a plan or a process. Then just overall, there's the business in a box type plans. These are the like affiliate type marketing plans, the affiliate marketing plans, the network marketing might fall into this, because these are somebody else's business models. These are somebody else's plans. You're like a PLR, I'm not talking about the crap PLR stuff, but the legitimate PLR stuff. These are somebody else's, like a franchise model, right? Where you don't have to build the business model yourself. You don't have to build the structure. You're following somebody else's recipe within there. And again, there's pros and cons to this as well. But the advantage, obviously, well, we'll get into that in just a second. And then the final one is equity plans. Yeah? So the equity plans are building a real, true business from scratch. Your vision, your business, what I would call a true entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, right? Not just, let me just get this set up right so that I can see it properly. I guess I got to do a little bit more. Yeah. Let's see. Is that right? Yeah, that's about right. Good. All right. So, what I would call a biz in a box plan and an equity plan is where I was, which is you're building a vision for yourself, a business, like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak with Apple, and Bill Gates with Microsoft. They had a vision and they built something from scratch, and they gave their heart and their soul to it, and they had to create all the opportunities, all the structure, all the business models, the marketing, the operations, all of it from scratch, right? And depending on where you are right now will depend upon what you're looking to create and what makes sense for you in this moment, right? I've had all 3 of these type of business models. I've leveraged all 3 of them based upon different points in time in my life. It's not that any one is good or bad, better or worse, etc. It's that it's what works for you, what matters, what is going to bring some stability to you, and in this particular moment, again, sorting it towards personalize it phases. So we start to see that how do we sort these different plans? How do we sort these different, how do we sort them into these particular categories? Well, we've got 5 different ways that we can break this down. All right, and we can move through the first well, let me see here. Yeah, okay, so cool. That doesn't cover anything up. All right, cool. So we can move through the first 5, or the first 3 really, because they're inherent in you. Okay, your personality sorted according to your personality, sorted according to your situation. Again, inherent in you, and sorted according to your current wants, inherent in you. All right. So by starting from above, right, with the previous exercise, you now can go in and you can start looking at a cash flow plan or a biz in a box plan or an equity plan. And you can start to say, all right, based upon my personality, like my overall personality personally is more about here and here right now, between the equity plans and the biz in the box plans. I'm bouncing right here. Like I will work harder right now to achieve a continuity type income that I can count on, that I can build, and it'll be dependable and have, 25, 30 grand a month coming in on a continual basis, than I will for a one-time payday hit, a big payday of 250,000 or something like that. I will be willing to work harder and put in more time for that, provided I'm building it the right way. That's part of my personality, inherent in me. It's also part of my current wants over here, right? Because my current wants, my needs, what I'm looking to create, what the difference that I'm looking to make in the world, well, I want to make an impact. I want to really deliver something of immense value. So for me, it's all in this area here. It's all in providing great insights and contributions to people and that are going to make an impact. So for me, those are things that I would then start to sort over here. So you can start to see where it is, right? But then you also now we can move on. I mean, this is all pretty much self-explanatory here when you start to break it down from the things that are inherent in you. And sorting the possibilities for yourself based on your personality, your situation, and your current wants, your desires, what it is that you have a vision to achieve in your life. Then, though, we come to the pros and cons that are inherent in each of the specific types of plan, right? And by type of plan, what I'm talking about is, well, of course, these 3 up here, right? The cash flow type plans, the biz in a box plans, the equity plans. But basically, there are pros and cons to each of them inherent in the plans themselves, and you need to know what they are as you're sorting through your options. The different things that you could be working on, the different things that you could be looking to achieve. So let's just talk about some of the pros and cons of each of these type of plans so that you understand the constraints and also the possibilities for each business model, and so that you're setting realistic expectations. All right? So everything in the cash flow type plans, these plans here, right? Those are, in fact, let me see here. All of these cash flow type plans are really what I term income today type income, meaning that you're trading your time for money, because that's the only thing that you can leverage. If you need to have immediate results and you need immediate cash flow today type money, income today, then the only thing that's going to give you that fast leverage, unless you've already built other aspects of these things in place for yourself, is going to be your time. So things like commission sales, You could do the buy and sell on eBay and the Amazon, some of that stuff, the PLR stuff. And some of the affiliate programs out there, depending on how they're structured, they might actually give you instant payouts, right? So that if you promoted them today and you made a commission today, you're not going to have to wait 30 days or 45 days for the, and then have the clawbacks of the commissions or whatever. And then 30 days from now, you can get a paid on that. That's not what I would term necessarily income today. Now, some of those can also be cash flow type plans. The advantage of a cash flow type plan is that it's quick to entry. It's quick to happen. It takes minimal setup, and you can start to get some results quickly, and you don't have to wait as long. And I don't mean to say that it's got to be minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day to achieve it. But cash flow plans, some launch models are still, whether they know it or not, are actually cash flow oriented businesses that aren't, in my opinion, real businesses unless they do something beyond just every other month or every 3 months or so promote a brand new launch and pass the same dollar around to, and endorse other people's launches in the, the round robin there. So if that's the case, a cash flow plan means that, well, here's how you know if you've got a cash flow plan. If you stop putting in the effort, how will your income stop? How quick after will your income stop versus do you have to continue to feed the kitty? You have to continue to prospect. You have to continue to make sales if you want to continue to generate the income. That's a cash flow type plan. So if your launch process is set up in a way that, you've got to continually launch because, it dies down and, you're constantly doing this, then that's a launch type plan. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's a bad idea or a bad plan, because launch type models are effective. And depending on what you need, look at the way that Jeff Walker creates his business model. Now, he's got a real business model behind his product launch. Sure, he started with a launch, with a big launch, and he helped other people do their launches. But then he turned that into a regular business where once a year he launches again. But then also he's got other programs and other things besides, and other processes that he's building behind the scenes to enhance it. So he's not dependent on just that cash flow each time he does a new launch. That takes his income and ratchets it up to the next level, and whenever he chooses to do that. So that's a cash flow plan. Now, some pros obviously are that it brings to market very, very quickly. In the pro aspect is that you've got some money coming in fast. And a number of other things are usually pretty beneficial. And frankly, that's where all of us tend to stay focused, because every time you hear about a new advertising technique, a new Facebook technique, a new this or new that, it's really for a burst or an influx of new sales, of new customers. And that's cash flow. And you can generate some really big numbers fast by doing that. Just know that on the con side of the equation, that what we have is it's short-lived. If you stop, it stops. And generally speaking, depending on how you're doing it, it's not. Most of these, like the hacks or the things that are coming along that are going gangbusters, work until they don't work anymore because they get saturated. And so, it's a temporary moment in time. That not only is it there's a shelf life on the technique itself, on the plan itself, on the method, but there's also, a limit on your time. So you just got to be upfront with that. But now, given everything else, and again, this is for you to decide, but given everything else based upon your personality, your situation, and your current wants, and everything that we talked about above, well, maybe the right thing to do is a cash flow type plan. And then you can evaluate all the different options that you have and put them in here and think about, in terms of, well, this plan is great because, it fits with my personality, it fits with my current situation, et cetera, et cetera. The pros are this one, the cons are this, the pros are this, whatever have you. Now I know, how I want to go about it, where I want to go, how it all falls into place. Yeah. So at that point, you then have the option to, and what I would just recommend that you do is just have some fun with this and see where it all fits. Just knowing what the differences are in the three basic models allows you to start thinking differently about how you want to build your model, because how you would go about building a cash flow plan, and how, if you wanted to apply the same rules to a biz in a box plan or an equity plan, it's probably not going to give you the same results, and vice versa. If you're building, or what you think you're building, a cash flow type model, but really in action you're building a equity type model, you're approaching it, and it requires you to build a lot of the structures and a lot of the things yourself, and to suss it all out from scratch. Well, then you're going to get real frustrated if you're trying to apply any of the rules, any of the processes, any of the other guidance and advice and programs from these areas over here. It's going to be harder because you've got to understand that you're not playing in the same level arena. Now, if you're aware of that, then you can always adopt and adapt things from over here. I've had some of my biggest successes and hits by looking at other models and saying, all right, how can I move that over here? And how can I, expand on it and make this work even better within my situation? But that's, again, me, and that's something that I enjoy doing. So, and if that's you, great, but just be upfront that there's a whole nother set of ingredients over here when you get to the pros and cons of your business model. Building an equity type business that is, and why I call it an equity business is because it has equitable value to it, that you could actually sell the business. A cash flow business only has the cash flow. So if it's relying on you, it's basically an hourly job. Now, sometimes it's a high paid hourly job, but without the right processes, without turning a cash flow plan into a biz in a box or a scalable or an equity type plan, it doesn't have real asset value that you could get a multiple of earnings on your business and sell it and have it run with or without you just as effectively, just as scalable. That's what I mean by an equity type business model. So the biz in the box plans, that is probably starting to come into focus right now. So let's just take this and move it over here for a second. And so none of that changes when we're talking about you and your personality and your situation, your current wants and desires. All of that still is the same, but how it relates within the current filters for your biz in a box plan, really, it's now, all right, do I like to reinvent the wheel, or do I want to follow somebody else's proven model? Great. So a pro of working through a biz in a box type plan is that they have a proven process. They have things that work. They have things that they are teaching you that you can depend on, that make sense, that create the right success for you, right? So at that point, you can leverage that, and you have it's a quicker leverage, and you have the ability to follow somebody else's blueprint. And so I mean, those are big pros, and that's why I started when I got my start as an entrepreneur, even before I shifted online, I got my start in besides the entrepreneurial things that I did, growing up. It was with network marketing, with multi-level MLM, and that is a great example of a biz in a box, because you're following, you don't have to produce the products. You don't have to ship the products. You don't have to worry about merchanting it and customer service. What you get to do is build the relationships and introduce other people to the products and the business, and train them, work with them, coach them, etc. And you get paid according to doing that, and you're leveraging everybody else's assets. Same thing would be true of an affiliate program or a media program, or there's all sorts of examples of this, but I think you can start to get the idea. So the pros are just that, is that you don't have to spend time. Usually, if you find something really good, it's sussed out, and beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you follow their formula, you are pretty well designed to get the success. And there's somebody there, if it's a good one, that can show you, that can teach you, that can give you the tools and resources and how to execute those tools and resources properly so that it will work for you as well. Yeah? All right. So the next steps of the process are moving in from the pro side of the equation is to the con. So the con side of a biz in a box type structure is that if there's a saturation point and you can't innovate too much, you can't play outside the lines because you don't have control. The advantages of being able to leverage somebody else's products and services and their customer service and all of that means that you're giving up control in exchange for the speed to entry and the ability. But it does give you more, depending on the type of process that you're following and what you tend to be doing, you can in fact wind up with ongoing income. And it doesn't necessarily, it can go beyond the income today type money into income tomorrow type money, where you're leveraging your knowledge and you're leveraging other people's business models. And if the business models that you're leveraging that are there for you, whether it's a franchise or whatever that might look like, as you leverage them, they allow you to continue to work for you. Just the same thing that gets you into business quicker gets you sustained income as well, so that you can have a continuity of income. You can have ongoing income if you so choose. Well, at that point, you've got a number of other processes too, because the pros in that case are also cons. Why? Because, well, if they're giving you a portion of the profits and a portion of all of this, then they can't give you as much of the profits because they need to have money to support and run the company and to remain profitable themselves and to continue. And you want that too, because you want your ability to continue to earn from that on an ongoing basis there as well. So your earning potential is going to be less because you're not in complete control. And depending on how many other people are promoting it and doing it in the same way and following their exact formula, that's going to dictate how effective and for how long that formula is until they decide that they need to provide new tools to the force, to their affiliate or business in a box plan workers, so that they can continue to earn and so on. And so sometimes the PLR stuff is a cash flow type plan, and sometimes a PLR process, depending on how it's structured and who it is, could be a biz in a box type plan. So they could be kind of like in the same boat. But basically, I think you can start to see the distinction between the two, right? And how one can be converted into the other, to the other, to the other. All of these can bounce back and forth, and you can build them into something depending on what as your needs, your wants, your desires, and everything shifts. All right, so from there, we've got the con side of the equation. Also, is that there's going to be a lot of restrictions. There's going to be a lot of things that are allowed or not allowed. Meaning that if you are restricted, like network marketing, for example, oftentimes if you don't know how to promote yourself and build a brand around your own image first, then you're stuck promoting whatever generic website they have, and they don't allow advertising of those websites. And so you can't go beyond, getting it out there. Plus, you look like every other distributor out there. However, if you add a little bit of an equity type process layered on top of that, meaning you build your own brand that is surrounded about you, surrounded about your vision, giving insights and value and contribution to others that way, and then you give back in that fashion, then what ends up happening is you can then turn around and advertise that, and then you can promote inside of your brand. You can then endorse your network marketing company or whatever that looks like. But that there are severe limitations depending on what you're doing. Plus, you need to be, another con that you need to be aware of or just be on the lookout for is that if whatever you're promoting is lent to hype, or other people that you don't have any control over could prostitute the whole process and promote it beyond what the program designer and the foundation meant for it, and it could spoil it for everybody. The actions of one, this is not a perfect example, but the point is like with an autoresponder service like GetResponse or Aweber or Mailchimp, right? They have a lot of people subscribed, using their services, and that they're sending email for them, and so they've got to police the entire. They've got to make sure that all of their users aren't doing something that is going to get them blacklisted so they can't deliver emails to other people, so that it doesn't affect your deliverability. So let's say somebody comes on and spams the hell out of something and they get away with it for a minute, but at the same time, it causes a black eye for the entire service, then that reflects badly not just on the service itself, but on you because it limits your results. And if you're promoting an autoresponder system or service as a business in a box type model to get ongoing monthly commissions from it, well, if that goes under because, people are promoting it or somebody promotes it in a way that, God forbid it's one of your clients, then, it hurts everybody. So the less control that you have over the situation, the more tenuous it has on the grass. But again, you're trading that for not having to build all this stuff yourself and being able to leverage other people's assets and be able to take that into consideration and so on. And the final piece of the puzzle is an equity type business where you're building your own business model as an asset and all of the assets that lead into it. And as we've been talking about here, you can have different types of assets. You could convert your cash flow plans into an ongoing asset that eventually, when you have a place that you're building in an equity type plan over here, that you might not have it in the beginning, but it might transition in where you can now I can feed this in, and now this can become a part of that whole journey. Does that make sense? So when we move to the equity plan, generally speaking, it's downstream. Generally speaking, it's long term. Now, some of us haven't ever looked at it this way. Now, like for example, if you're building a practice or if you're a freelancer, then more than likely what you should be focused in on is not necessarily focused in on over here and building an equity plan. You might want to be looking at a biz in a box and using different assets and different processes to feed into your freelancing gig or into your building your practice out, building your, that are here that you can leverage other people's things, even though it's going into you have a little bit more control over it. And then as that happens, you get some results and some success, then you can start building these assets in and build it along and start adapting it for your specific situation, and you add another asset to the mix. The biggest disadvantage of an equity plan is the amount of work that goes into it, and that with a with an entrepreneurial A-type minded personality, the tendency is to not be willing to give up control to other people, to have a team that you can depend on, and to empower them to work with you to grow it, so that that it's not always dependent on you. In the beginning, it has to be dependent on you, your vision, your sweat equity, your drive, and making, bending the business to your sheer will, because you've got this clear vision, because you're the visionary of where it is that you want to take it to. And sometimes we don't start with that clear vision, and so it's easier to start with one of these other plans. And as we start to see where, based upon all of these things over here, and as they evolve in us, as we start to get clearer and clearer and optimize for us what where it is that we want to go, and keep on filtering it through those means, and keep on personalizing our game plan that way, then it becomes clearer and clearer how we want to build out a business model. And so that's one reason why it can take a long time. Another reason why it can take a long time is that we have a tendency to think that we're building assets just by building, and taking advantage of some of these, one of these other opportunities here, that we're, that we really are building a business. And in fact, what we're doing is we've got a whole bunch of cash flow type plans that are chained together, that and we don't understand why it's not all working cohesively to help us meet our grand vision. And that's what I mean by being real clear about what you're looking for and how you're looking to create it. Another disadvantage of an equity type business model is that it can cost money, and it's an investment, and it becomes an investment whether you're investing in the operational side of your system, the management side of the system, the leadership side of your system, from the inside out, or the marketing. And you should be doing all of the above, right? You should be investing more money back into your business. And if your business is a true equity type business, then the business itself is an asset that the more that you invest in it, the more that it gives you out, the more that it multiplies out the effect of your results. And so if that's not occurring, then you don't yet have an asset-based business model, and you need to be upfront with where you are and know what you're working towards. If you're just trying to make some extra money on the side, and you want an extra, $500 or $1,000 a month to help meet some bills, then you'd be well served in a cash flow type business model, or a biz in a box type business model, for sure. And then, not to say that you have to stay there forever, but you can either graduate that, because once you get in the game, once you get moving, you're going to see new opportunities. But the ultimate advantage of and pro of an equity type plan is that the sky's the limit. It's your vision. You get to call the shots. You get to say, I'm going here, and I'm going to figure out how to get there. And you get to be in charge of your destiny. That's a great empowering thing if you have the confidence levels up. If you're working through that inspired action breakthrough, the inspired inspiration-based action breakthrough, instead of motivated action breakthrough, instead of feeling out of desperation in our Fred stories that we've got to make this happen. And the more that you get there, and if you're not there now, cool, but maybe you can get there faster by working on something, like taking it in bite-sized chunks without having to, maybe you need to be upfront that your current situation is requiring you to work on a different plan that will allow you to grow and expand and do the things that we've been talking about in the past sessions here, in the past workshop stacks that we've been working on over the last few weeks. The point is that if we bring this all the way through, and we start to loop it around. Oftentimes it can become the slow, fast way. Just like we talked about, like it's real hard to go from, down in the dumps, depression, all the way up to, the top of the scale here, where you're, where you can do no wrong. You have the Midas touch. Everything you do just works out, and it's phenomenal, right? Well, that's the difference there, is that you then have the ability to bring yourself through that journey at your own pace. When you do get there, though, there's no cap on your income, because the opportunities are endless. And you're going to see this when I give you the framework to the Capitalize It framework inside of the building an online business. There's only 3 major pieces of an online business that you need to be concerned with. And everything else is an offshoot of that. So you're going to start to see that regardless of what type of plan you're working on, there's still going to be 3 different components of that plan, of building that out, that you need to make work. And that's just the way it rolls out, right? Like when you get down to the core principle fundamentals. And so once you know what they are, then you can pick the right tools to support those things. And there's millions of opportunities, but you're picking the right tools based upon the way that you've already sorted it. Does that make sense? And the sort it right now is the personalize it step. Whew. All right. Let's get rid of the double the double negative there. The me and little me and mini me. So that pretty much concludes our personalize it step of the phase. Then in our final workshop stack for this grouping, we are going to be working on the Capitalize It phase, which I just talked about. And we're going to be chatting with my buddy and business partner, mother from another brother from many, many years ago, Dan Kushel, on Friday. And we're going to have the opportunity. And by the way, linked in the description below, you're going to see a link to his Growth to Freedom show. And an interview that I did with him fairly recently for his 300th episode, which I think was back in December, if I recall correctly. Anyway, and interestingly enough, the way that interview ended up shaping up is all about in the trenches, practical advice about these 3 steps that I've been teaching you in this 3-stack of workshops. So in our final step of this process for this week, we're going to move into the Capitalize It phase of the equation, where now that you've narrowed it down, so the idea is to pick a specific type of plan and then narrow down not just the type of plan of which of those 3 makes the most sense for you, but to break it down into based upon the different ideas that you've been rolling around with that have been overwhelming you, that you've been interested in, that have been pulling your attention, like which ones, once you make that choice, which ones fit where. Yeah? So now you get more clarity. And then all you have to do left is, for the personalize it phase, is once you've done the 2 exercises that we talked about, the one personal to you, and then the sorting process here with the particular business models, then pick your top 3 choices in that category. First, pick your proper category of the 3 based upon your own evaluation and the 5 criteria in the matrix there, the 3x5 matrix. So you'll pick one of the 3 columns. My business type plan for right now is X, business in a box type plans, or cash flow type plans, whatever that might be. And the names that I gave them are, transformer, builder, and entrepreneur. So like the transformer type category it's a transformational. It's to get you over a stopgap, the cash flow plans. Builder, I'm going to build onto something that's pre-existing or that's already there. I'm going to leverage it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to build something up over time and take it to the next level. And then entrepreneur, we've done deep on that already. So you take whichever of the 3 categories that you've chosen, pick 3 top picks for yourself of ideas that you could execute in any one of those 3 categories, whatever they may be. Okay? Then pick the one that resonates with you the most of the 3. So just narrow it down from the 3 to the 1. And the top one, does that excite you? And then use that as an overlay. Make sure that you're being honest with yourself based upon what we covered in the previous, the part 1 of the Personalize It, where, the bullseye. Where is it that you say you want to get to? Is this part of it right now inside of this current situation right now? I'm not talking about like big picture necessarily for 1,000 years from now, because what you need to do right now is eat. What you need to do right now is get momentum, right? So at that point, where you go with it is under your guidance, under your control. And then just make sure that you're just filtering it through those filters. So you see how we're just honing it down. It's that magnifying glass. And we're getting it sharp, razor sharpness, laser into that fine beam of light that now can start a fire and catch fire, like yourself and your business and your excitement and your momentum for that moving forward. And then we'll move it into, how do we actually leverage it? How do we put it to work for ourselves? How do we capitalize on it? That's the third part, which we will be diving into in our next session. See you then.